Hello, this is Bill with my September wrap-up. So I read a short story from H.G. Wells called The Chronic Argonauts. So I read this from the collected novels, short stories, essays, and articles of H.G. Wells. So Shawn D. Stanfast has organized a read all of H.G. Wells' fiction. So here's my notes in Joplin. So far I've only read the first one on his list. So then I finished five books during September. So here they are, worst to best. So the worst thing I read was Pippi in the South Seas by Astrid Lindgren. So I read Pippi when I was maybe 7 or 8. So they were great books back then, but now my cranky old brain thinks it's terrible that Pippi lives by herself and she does whatever she wants, and she's always saying ridiculous things, and she lives with her horse and a monkey, so she's strong enough she can lift her horse up. And her father is the king on a South Sea island. So in the story, basically all he had, because he had white skin, all he had to do was show up on the island and they made him king. So I think the books I was reading in the 60s were training me how to be a racist. So I read Star Trek: The Motion Picture. So this was a much better read, but still fairly simple, tame as science fiction goes. But that's because Star Trek's made for the masses, not for people that like complex science fiction with lots of science and technology. That I have a separate video for this book. And I read The Big Sleep by Raymond Chandler, which was a good book. It was my second read. It was better on the second read than on the first. It's the lingo threw me off a bit on the first read, but after that, letting that sit in my brain for a couple of years, then it was easier to handle on the second read. So probably the second best read in September was Dichronauts by Egan. So with Egan, it should have been my best read in the month, but this one doesn't live up to my expectations from reading Egan years ago. So there's a separate video for this book as well. So probably the best thing I read in September was the Golem and Jinni by Helene Wecker. So there's a separate video for this book too. So I read 90% of the Blue Remembered Earth by Alastair Reynolds. So if I'd finished it, I would have considered it my best read for September, but since I'm going to finish it today, I'll count it as an October read. Then I'll start on Middlemarch by George Eliot. So this is organized as 8 books. So depending on how it goes, I might just read straight through the whole book, but if I need breaks, there's 8 places I can take a break and read something else. Because at some time I'd like to get on with the Poseidon's children's trilogy. So that's all for this video. See you in the next one.